The first email I received after Daniel's funeral wasn't a condolence, it was from Human Resources. Please submit your revised team report by EOD Monday. We understand you've had some time off. Some time off. That's how the company framed burying my husband. I stared at the screen in disbelief, my eyes still swollen from crying. Sophie's small body curled next to me on the couch, her stuffed rabbit crushed to her chest. They didn't even mention his name. Just a ticking deadline, as if grief had an expiration date. At least Daniel's firm had been different. His partners wept at his service. His clients sent letters. His assistant Amanda brought groceries and sat with me while I figured out how to use our online bank account, something Daniel had always managed. My family, on the other hand, showed up 20 minutes late to the funeral, trailed by excuses about unexpected traffic and wardrobe issues. My sister Vanessa wore sunglasses the entire time and whispered on her phone during the eulogy. At the reception, I caught my father, Martin Hayes, by the drinks table with Uncle Robert. "She'll be set for life," he said, swirling scotch. "Daniel had one of those platinum tier insurance plans, didn't he?" I blinked hard, unsure if I'd misheard. But then Robert replied, "Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she's sitting on 7 figures now." Daniel had been dead for less than a week. Later, after most guests had gone, my parents cornered me in the kitchen. "You holding up, Claire?" my mother Ellen asked, placing a hand on my shoulder, her tone almost believable. "As well as can be," I said cautiously. They exchanged a glance. "Well, we know this isn't a good time," my father began, which of course meant they were about to say something awful. "But we thought it might be wise to talk about the future. Financially." I paused mid-dish, plate still wet in my hand. "I beg your pardon?" "I mean, obviously you're still processing everything," my mother cut in, "but with Daniel's policy, you'll be in a stable position. Your father and I, well, we're not. Retirement's around the corner, Claire. Healthcare is brutal." "You want money?" My voice was flat. "Not want," Martin said, holding up his hands. "It's about fairness, family support. We helped with your down payment, your tuition. Vanessa's had a harder go at things. Her art business never really took off. That's not my fault." No, but you're in a position to help. 50% of the insurance payout would go a long way to secure our future and help your sister get back on her feet." I let the plate crash into the sink. Water splashed across the counter. 50%, I repeated, of the money Daniel left to support me and Sophie after his death? Martin's tone turned patronizing. "It's not about taking, it's about sharing. It's about you seeing Daniel's death as your windfall," I said. "You didn't even help me tell Sophie he was gone. You didn't stay the night. You didn't ask if we had groceries. You were too busy organizing a birthday party. That was planned months in advance," Ellen snapped, cheeks flushing. "It was Vanessa's 40th. We had caterers." "And a dead son-in-law was too inconvenient." Ellen's face hardened. "We raised you, Claire. We deserve some consideration." "You deserve nothing," I said, shaking. "You weren't there when we needed you. You're here now because you want a slice of what Daniel left behind." Vanessa drifted in from the hallway, wine glass in hand. "Mom and Dad are just being practical," she chimed. "You're suddenly rich. Meanwhile, I'm still drowning in student loans." I turned to her slowly. "You didn't speak at Daniel's service. You didn't ask Sophie if she was okay. You posted selfies from the funeral in your stories." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said. "I'm being clear." My father sighed, as if I were the burden. "We thought you'd respond this way. That's why we drafted a proposal. Just look at it." He slid a manila folder onto the counter. Inside was a printed breakdown. Percentages, suggested allocations. As if my grief was a budget spreadsheet. I didn't touch it. "I want you all to leave," I said quietly. "Claire," I said, "get out." Ellen straightened, lips pursed. "We're your family." And Daniel was mine. And now he's gone. And I see exactly who's left. They left without another word. Vanessa drained her glass on the way out. I stood alone in my kitchen, hands trembling, heartbeat loud in my ears. My phone buzzed. It was Amanda. Just checking in. Anything you need? I stared at the screen, tears welling. Yes, I whispered, but not from the people I used to call family. If you've ever been dismissed or devalued right when you needed support the most, type 1. The Slack message was short, brutal. Claire, we've reassigned the Simmons proposal to Jonah. He'll be presenting it Friday. Thanks for your early groundwork. I stared at it, blinking. My stomach dropped. The Simmons proposal was mine. Weeks of research, client calls, late nights juggling Sophie's bedtime with budget forecasts. And now, handed to Jonah, the intern turned fast-track favorite who smiled too hard and stayed too late. I clicked into the shared folder. My presentation was there. Slides, forecasts, language. My name? Replaced. No confrontation, no acknowledgement. Just a quiet theft dressed as a reassignment. I was still reeling when my mother texted. Ellen, Mom. Family meeting this Sunday at 2 p.m. Important. Bring Sophie. No, please. No, how are you? I didn't reply. I didn't have to. I already knew what it would be. Another ambush. That night, Sophie sat cross-legged at the dining table, colored pencils fanned around her like spokes on a wheel. What are you working on? I asked gently. She looked up, her eyes serious in a way no 8-year-olds should be. A surprise for Sunday. She wouldn't say more, just kept sketching with a kind of quiet resolve that reminded me so much of Daniel it made my throat tighten. Sunday came. I dressed Sophie in a navy dress Daniel had bought for her last spring. She clutched a large manila envelope on her lap the whole ride. Do you want to tell me what's in it? I asked. She shook her head. It's for them. My parents' house hadn't changed. Still the pristine lawn, the curated photo wall with more pictures of Vanessa than me. Inside, the living room was arranged like a courtroom. Martin in his recliner, Ellen on the love seat, Vanessa perched like a smug cat on the arm of the couch. Uncle Terry, Aunt Barbara, even Sophia's boyfriend, whose name I couldn't remember. All there, watching. Thank you for coming, Martin said, folding his hands like a CEO about to pitch a merger. We're here to discuss a fair redistribution of Daniel's life insurance. I stayed standing, Sophie beside me. You mean you want money? I said. Vanessa scoffed. You act like that's a dirty word. Mom and Dad supported you for years. Tuition, mortgage help. They're just asking for some fairness now that you're, well, comfortable. I'm not comfortable, I snapped. I'm barely sleeping. I'm raising our daughter alone, and my husband is in the ground because his heart gave out from working too damn hard. Martin held up a sheet of paper. Here's the proposal. 50% to your mother and me, 15% to Vanessa, the rest, of course, for you and Sophie. Sophie stepped forward before I could respond. I have something too, she said. The room stilled. She pulled out her envelope and handed it to my father. Inside was a drawing, made to look like an invoice. In crayon with block letters. Invoice for real love and support. Being there when Daddy died, $0, not provided. Hugging Mom when she cried, $0, not provided. Asking how I was, $0, not provided. Acting like family, priceless, never delivered. Total, due 0.0. The silence was deafening. My mother's mouth trembled. Vanessa stared as if seeing her niece for the first time. Sophie looked at them all and said, This is what you earned. Tears stung my eyes. I had never been prouder or more heartbroken. Martin stood up slowly, face red. Claire, this is cruel. You're poisoning her against her own family. I stepped in front of Sophie. She's seeing the truth, maybe for the first time, and if you can't handle that from an 8-year-old, maybe you shouldn't be sitting in judgment. Ellen clutched her purse. We're only asking for what's fair. You're asking for a reward for abandonment, I replied coldly. And you won't get it. You'll regret this, Martin warned. Don't think we won't explore legal options. I smiled, sharp as glass. Then I'll bring an invoice of my own, and unlike Sophie's, mine comes with a lawyer attached. We turned and walked out. My daughter's small hand slipped into mine, warm and steady. If you've ever had to protect what's yours from the people who should have protected you, type 2. The envelope was unmarked, tucked at the very back of Daniel's filing cabinet under a folder labeled medical. I almost missed it. It was his handwriting. I recognized the slant of the E in Evans. My hands trembled as I opened it. Claire, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I stopped breathing. I didn't want to scare you, so I didn't tell you how serious the doctor's warnings were. But I prepared everything. I've updated the trust and insurance. Everything goes to you and Sophie, with a locked fund for her future. Do not let anyone pressure you, especially your father. He's asked me twice already for investment opportunities. I said no, you should too. Protect what matters. I sank to the floor. He'd seen this coming. He hadn't said a word. He knew. He knew what they'd try. I called Jordan Lee, Daniel's estate lawyer, immediately. I need to confirm something, I said, voice tight. Is there a separate trust for Sophie? He pulled up the files. Yes. Daniel structured it to activate upon his death, with you as the sole trustee. It's airtight. Can it be contested? No. He was of sound mind. His documentation is solid. And frankly, Claire, he was meticulous. He predicted this. I know, I whispered. He warned me. The next day, another email pinged in my inbox at work. This time from Jonah. Hey Claire, just a heads up. HR wants to meet about the Simmons account. They're asking questions. I clicked into the company drive. My name was finally back on the presentation. Quietly, HR had begun reviewing Jonah's access logs and the metadata on the proposal files. It was my chance. I compiled everything, emails, version histories, timestamps, and submitted a formal report. At home, Sophie was helping Joan, my mother-in-law, bake Daniel's favorite cookies. Their laughter from the kitchen steadied me. That weekend, I received a formal letter from my father. To Claire Evans, we are deeply hurt by your refusal to cooperate. As your parents, we have a right to fair financial support, especially given our contributions to your early life. If this matter is not resolved amicably, we may be forced to escalate through legal channels. I placed it next to Daniel's handwritten letter, and then I made a decision. Sunday, our front yard. Michael, Daniel's brother, had just returned from Japan and stood beside me in quiet support. The doorbell rang. My parents. Vanessa. Again. This time, I met them at the door, not with politeness, but with a file folder. I won't be entering into any financial arrangements with you, I said calmly. Daniel left a trust. It's protected. And he left a letter. I handed the copy to my father. He read in silence, face darkening. He said this? He asked, jaw clenched. Yes, twice. You asked him for money while he was alive, and now you're asking me to betray what he left for Sophie. My mother tried again. We were desperate, Claire. We didn't know how else to ask. You didn't ask, I corrected. You demanded, you threatened, you ambushed me in my own grief. Vanessa rolled her eyes. You're really going to hold a grudge over Tone? You're right, I said softly. This isn't about Tone. It's about values. Daniel had them. You don't. We're your family, my father said, stepping forward. We're not done here. I stepped back. Actually, we are. And just so you know, should you attempt any legal claim, Jordan Lee is ready. And we have Daniel's words, in ink. Think very carefully before you try to override his wishes. He froze, and for the first time, I saw uncertainty. Behind me, Sophie stood in the hallway, quiet, watching. I turned to her. Sweetheart, do you want to say anything? She hesitated, then stepped forward, holding her drawing from last week. She added a line at the bottom. Trusts are built on love. You broke both. Then she handed it to my father. They left without another word. If you've ever been forced to choose between peace and people who don't protect your peace, type 3.